What's up is Way Up with Angela Yee, and we have a true legend here with us. Debbi Morgan is here. Welcome to Way Up.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Man, listen, I've been watching like a lot of what you do and the energy that you bring. Everybody's like, she is like the nicest, sweetest person. So I appreciate you for coming here because you do have the #1 show on Netflix right now, Beauty in Black. And I am on the edge of my seat for part 2 to come out next year.
It is such a bingeable show. I was having a watch party, and I was telling everybody to watch episodes 1 and 2, and then come to my house to watch 3 and 4 because my character isn't introduced until 3 and 4. And my cousin called me, and she said, Debbi, she said, I cannot believe that Lillian. I said, who is Lillian? So she said, no, Olivia. I can't believe this scene with Olivia. I said, girl, I told you to wait until episode 3 and 4. She said, I couldn't stop watching it, but okay, I won't watch anything else. She comes to the party and she said, cuz, look, please don't be mad. I watched all 8 episodes. all 8 episodes.
And we'll watch it again because there's certain things you may not catch the first time you watch it. And I'm glad you're here after the show has already been out so we can actually talk about it.
Yes.
Because sometimes before it comes out, you don't want to give spoilers.
Right.
But if you haven't seen it now and aren't watching it the second or third time, too bad.
Right.
We're
But there also may be people who have not seen it for one reason or the other.
Listen, they got to get on it because it's been out for a little while now. Okay,
Yeah.
At this point, there's no excuse. and we are able to talk about what happened on the show and your character, Olivia. I'm trying to figure out because the way that it's kind of portrayed, like Olivia is the stable, caring mom, but you have a lot of things going on that maybe people don't know about yet.
Yeah, she's not quite what she seems. The way I describe Olivia is that she's a matriarch of the family, and she's this proud church-going woman on Sundays, maybe a few days during the week.
Other days. No.
But I'm telling you, you come for her, you mess with any of her sons, out will come this shrewd, vengeful, take no prisoners woman. And I love the relationship that she has with her ex-husband, Horace, because Horace despises Olivia from the depths of his soul.
You know, listen, but with Horace, your ex-husband, he has his own secrets.
Everybody has secrets on this show.
It's all in real life.
Yes.
But anyway,
true.
But the thing that is crazy, and this is so true in real life, he is so homophobic against his own son. But then he's got his own thing going on.
This is so weird because people don't believe me when they ask me, well, what's going to happen in part 2, or even before the show came out, asking me things that were going to happen. When I read a script, even though I read the whole script, but then when I get ready to really start working on my character, I kind of forget about the other scenes that I'm not involved in. So a lot of this I've forgotten about. And when I saw the scene with Rico Ross, I was like, yeah, wait a minute. Why is he coming down on this? But I wonder if that's one of the reasons that Olivia has such a... she has a special love for her young son, Charles, because he is gay. And I feel that when he was very young, Horace was very mean to him, calling him all kinds of disrespectful names. And I said, now look at him. Look at my ex-husband.
That's like real life. That's like in politics. It'd be them politicians that's like, oh, we don't want gay marriage. We don't want this. We don't want LGBTQIA rights. But they're the ones that are secretly sneaking around doing stuff. Because they are so mad at the fact that they can't be who they want to be. It bothers them.
Right. But it's so funny because at this day and time, for people to even be not so much for the transgenders, especially transgender children, but just being gay, to me, it seems so odd that people would be in the closet today. I mean, people just seem that they're so much more comfortable, being authentic in their own skin. I just find that surprising.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think we've made a lot of strides, but then there's like so much, like people really will beat you up just for existing or have an issue. So it's hard to know because not in that position. I feel like we have more representation, but it's still like, even when I interview people and they're able to discuss, their realities, the comments that they get and the hate that they get will remind you that it's still not a safe place always.
Okay.
Just because we don't see it because we're okay with it.
Right.
But there's a lot of people who aren't, and especially in like other parts of the country. We grow up in New York.
Right.
And I feel like in New York, growing up here, you see so much.
Any and everything.
Yeah, that from a young age, I was always very accepting of people who are different. But some places, that's not as acceptable still to this day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know? I feel like this show, would you categorize Beauty in Black as a soap opera?
You know, I would categorize that in the sense that soap operas always leaves you with a lot of cliffhangers, and this show from beginning to each episode is a cliffhanger.
I'm like, well, now wait, what?
You know, yeah, they did what? She did what? He did what? What's gonna happen next? It's you know, and it's so much fun because so many of the characters in the show are characters that are flawed. You know, there's some characters that you root for, but other characters that you love to hate. My character is somebody that you will love her initially, but you'll get to the point where you may love to hate her.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
I can't wait either.
You can't wait to play the bad guy. No, because right now, honestly, I was talking to someone who works up here, and we were discussing it, and she was like, you know, her character, Olivia, is the only one that is like, has redeeming qualities. She's like the matriarch. She's the person that, you know, takes up for her sons. I'm like, oh, I don't know, because I feel like...
Hold the brakes.
Yeah, I feel like you had a little affair situation, which we find out about in the hospital.
Yeah, but we won't go any further with that because I think some of that's going to come out in part two.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of that.
A little taste of it.
A little taste. So we're getting little inklings.
Yes.
And I always feel like with the Tyler Perry show, everything is not what it seems.
Absolutely. And like you said before, everybody has a little secret. You know, and it's also great. I want to mention working with Richard Lawson too. Richard and I have gotten we have gotten to act together on many different projects, but mostly playing husband and wife.
Right.
So this is the first time that we're adversaries, and we are both just loving it. Because Richard and I talk all the time. We said, boy, we got some stuff buried real deep when this comes out.
That has to feel nice and comfortable. Were you guys casted like at the same time? Just because of relationships and...
Well, you know what happened? The first time I'd gotten to work with Tyler was Divorce in the Black. And after working with him, he was so sweet. He called me up and he said, Debbi, I enjoyed working with you so much, and I love your work. And I said, Tyler, I loved working with you, too. I would love to do a great show with you. And he said, you know what? He said, I'm going to come up with a role for you on my next series. I said, okay. And then I texted him back. I said, now, Tyler, don't make me some goody two-shoes lady. I said, I want to be bad. And he laughed, and he called me. He said, you want to be bad? Okay. I got the role for you. And he actually wrote that role for myself and also for Richard. You know, I think from Divorce in the Black, everybody's always loved the chemistry that Richard and I have together. You know, I say it always feels like I'm getting a warm hug when I walk into the set with him. It's great.
I mean, even looking at some of the other iconic roles you played, but you did Toni Braxton's mom. That scene where you find out that your husband is cheating on you. Give her all the...
My feet were swollen. My feet were swollen because I had this scene when I first find out, and he locks himself in the bathroom, and I start tearing down all the pictures, and I'm stomping and breaking all the pictures. Yeah, but the director had me do that about 5 or 6 times. I was like, okay, I'm burnt out.
I could do this 1 or 2 times.
Yes, don't listen. I told Tyler, I said, I love working with you. I said, you don't beat a scene to death. I said, you know, to me, it kind of takes you out of the moment when you have to do something over and over and over again, and it just keeps the authenticity more for me. He doesn't do more than 1 or 2 takes,
right?
And sometimes he even tapes a rehearsal. And so the first time I was working with him, I said, Tyler, I love that you're so quick and we get this thing moving. He said, Debbi, you don't know how many actors say to me, look, Tyler, I can't work like this. This is too fast. I said, well, I am not one of them.
Yeah, I'm with it. But even like for you coming from All My Children, was that very fast-paced too? Because I know in soap operas they tape a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you do a whole show every day.
Right.
You know, so you have to be really quick. You have to make sure that you know your lines because everything is about time and they don't have the time to go back and do stuff over and over. So that was a really good learning experience for me being on the soaps for decades like that.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that's like a crash course to start.
Yeah, and it also helped because Tyler can write some lines, some dialogue. I mean, sometimes we have pages and pages of dialogue. And on All My Children, because you had to learn like maybe 30 or 40 scenes a day, it just makes it really easy for me to read lines and,
Yeah, that's like a crash course in being able to do that, because that's one of the hardest. I can't even imagine the amount, how you like exercise your brain to be able to do that.
When we were doing Divorce in the Black, we had been filming for maybe about 2 weeks, and Richard got into the van after me, and one of the DAs came up and gave us some pages and said, Tyler has just added this. Richard's character was just a farmer. Richard is reading. He said, Debbi, now I'm the preacher. He said, I'm the preacher and the farmer. And I'm
sense.
reading my lines. And he said, look at all these sermons I got to preach. I mean, pages. And I said, oh, my God, Richard. He said, okay, well, you look over your stuff. I'll look over mine, and then we'll start working on it. So I'm looking at my stuff, so after about 10 minutes, Richard said, you want to run it? I said, yeah. So he's giving me his lines, and I'm just giving him mine. And so then he said, wait a minute. Do you know all those lines already? And I said, yes.
Amazing.
He said, I'm so mad at you.
Corey Hardrick, when he was here, he said they added that scene after everything in the beginning with the scene, how the movie opens up, where they take the body out of the coffin.
And you know what? Like I was saying, once I get a script and then I delve into what I'm doing, I kind of forget about everything else. And I was almost shocked myself when I was sitting there doing it. I said, oh, my God, I forgot they take the body out of the casket.
That went viral immediately.
Oh, I said, Tyler, he sure knows how to open a scene.
Yes,
he really does.
Some of those scenes, people will be, okay, this is so crazy. But real life is crazy as well, And you know what I think is fascinating for you? Your memoir, Monkey on My Back. And I know you turned that into a one-woman show as well.
Yeah, I did it around the country.
For you to be so transparent about your life, I think we see you play other characters all the time, but to know maybe where you're able to pull from and see who you are as a human being outside of that, that was something that, it wasn't even about your work. It was about your life. And being able to help other people, because a lot of times we look at relationships and we're like, why is this person staying with that person? If that was me, I would have did X, Y, and Z. And we don't know what people go through. And the fact that you were able to help, I'm sure a lot of women were able to relate.
Yeah, I had a lot of women come up to me after. I've had women come up to me with like tears in their eyes, saying, oh, my God, it was like you were talking directly to me. And I remember, I'll never forget, this one woman came up to me. She had 2 young girls with her. And she said, Miss Morgan, I just want you to know, these are my 2 daughters. They're 9 years old, and almost all of their lives, they've been watching their fathers beat me. And she said, after listening to you tonight, I don't care what it takes. I'm not keeping them in that house one more day. And when I got chills remembering that.
I mean, that's like saving a life. And also kids, like we say, they do watch what's happening, and you saw and witnessed a lot. Your mom did too. Yeah. So to be able to just in a way explain to people and have them read that and see what you went through. Because sometimes people don't look at like Debbi Morgan as a human being, as somebody who's gone through things. They'll just be like, she must have this perfect life. Everything's been amazing. You've been in this business for so long, successfully. You've laid down the groundwork for so many people to come after you, but they don't understand maybe where that drive comes from too.
Yeah, it's been a journey. And I think when I was really, really young, sort of like, and I didn't know it was about being an actress. I was too young. But I always went to Catholic school. And when I was about maybe 9 or 10 years old, I would come home from school and I would put these towels around my head and rosary beads on, trying to act like I was one of the nuns. And it got to the point where my mother decided she was going to take me to see the Mother Superior. And she said, I think Debbi is going to want to be a nun one day. Is there any kind of thing, training or bringing her to church more, talking to you sisters? And Mother Superior said, look, she is 9 years old. By the time she gets to be a teenager, becoming and discovers boys, being a nun is going to go out the window. But that was my beginning of wanting to act out this character that I saw. And it was also my way of kind of putting things away, and not going into such a deep depression from what I was going through. And because I started acting really young and doing a lot of plays, and it was like my outlet, you know. I also remember, too, when I was really young, I used to always pray, God, please just let my father die. Just let him die. And when he died at 32 years old, that had such a weight on me for years because I didn't understand that was his time.
Right.
I was like, oh my God has answered my prayers, and am I responsible for that? And to this day, I always feel, I wonder what it would be like if my father was still alive, and I could sit and have the conversation with him and find out the why. What were your demons, like Daddy, that made you become this kind of monster almost?
Yeah, because it could be him emulating what he grew up seeing. It's like it is like a cycle pattern. And I know you had these conversations with your mom too, for her to have explained to you what she went through even when she was young.
Well, I know my mother told me, as far as my father was concerned, she said it's interesting because a lot of young boys grow up wanting to emulate, wanting to. I need to take some water. I just needed a drink. My mother said that most young boys end up wanting to emulate their fathers, their first role model. Now, my father's father was my favorite grandfather. I had 2 grandfathers, and he was my favorite. He was so kind and loving, and my mother said that's how he treated her. She said the problem was when your father would go to some of the homes of some of his friends, he would witness some of the abuse, that his friends were going through with their parents, and some kind of way in his head, he mistook my grandfather's kindness toward my mother is like being henpecked.
Right.
And my mother said he would say things like, when I get married, I'm going to rule my house. My wife's not going to rule my house. So a lot of times, you think kids may go one way because they're looking at this role model, and you don't know how they're perceiving that.
He thought it was weak.
So, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
I do want to say that I appreciate it for anybody who hasn't had a chance to read that memoir. Definitely they should. And I know it must have meant a lot to you for you to even turn it into a one-woman show and go around and do that, because that's such a departure from what you have been doing up until that point.
Yeah, I know. And like you said, I've had so many people come up to me and say, when I look at you and have seen, the projects that you have done, I would never have thought that those would have been your experiences in life.
Right. And how could you ever have anticipated the role that you have played in, just even in doing a soap opera, having a black couple on a soap opera, things that everybody's, families, grandparents, everybody used to watch the soaps. And so to see yourself reflected in that way, like to see a couple, and to see the successful roles that you played of a black woman, those are really impactful things. Do you think you understood the weight of that when you were doing it, just the representation?
No, I really didn't. And it's funny because when I first went on All My Children with Darnell Williams, who played Jesse, he gave me away at my wedding, by the way. He's like family to me. But during that time, we used to do the shows in sequence. So you would start with like the prologue and go all the way to the last act in the show. And so sometimes we would be at the studio at like 7 o'clock in the morning and not get out till like 7 at night if you were in the latter scenes in the show. And Darnell and I had gotten so popular that one weekend we decided, it was like a Friday night, we said, let's go catch a movie. So we go to the theater. When we get there, the theater's dark and people are already seated. So we finally, get in, we watch the show. And when the lights were coming up, we started talking about where we might want to go and eat. And all of a sudden, we heard like this kind of like low whisper. We weren't paying any attention. We kept talking. Then it was like this kind of rumble that was growing. And then all of a sudden somebody said, oh my God, it's Jesse and Angie. It's Jesse and Angie. You would have thought we were Michael and Janet Jackson. And Darnell grabbed my hand. He said, run, Debbie, run. And we're running down 42nd Street. And we run through this alley. And we both look at each other. And at the same time we went, oh, shit.
That's amazing.
So I've garnered a lot of my fans from my soap opera days who have just followed me, that are now loving, Beauty in Black, Divorce in Black, and all of the things that I've done. And I've been lucky too, because a lot of times when you do a role that long, I mean, I did Angie for decades, you really get
pigeonholed,
typecast.
yeah.
And I would have to say that every single character that I have played in, especially in Beauty and Black, has been so different from any other characters
Right,
I've
Power.
done.
Listen, we watched you on that. You've been, I think, steady working like all this time, and that is for sure a blessing. Was there ever a time that you were like, I don't want to do this anymore?
You know, there was a period of time. I don't know if it was after. I can't remember. I can't remember where I was. I was in between projects. Maybe like I went like a year or so without acting. And you know, for an actress, every time you finish one job, you don't know when the next job is going to come along. And I thought that I might want to go to design school. I think if I hadn't been an actress, I would have wanted to be an interior designer or an architect.
That's dope.
I love homes. I love homes so much. I love decorating. My assistant over there, she knows that. my I have to tell you this really funny story.
She's laughing already because she knows what it is.
I'm always trying to get my assistant to decorate certain areas in her house, her bedroom, her family room, and she's like, "Okay, Debbie, I'm going to get to it." And so one day I had this designer coming to my house, and I said, well, first I want you to go to Carol's house. We live in the same community. So there's some things that you can help her with. So she comes back and she called Carol, and I thought I'd hung up the phone. And I said, Carol has her dining table set with all of these placemats and tables here. I keep telling her that it's so old-fashioned. They don't do that anymore. I said, she got a china cabinet up there. And Carol said, I can hear you, Debbie. I can hear you. I was like, oh.
Oh, my gosh. How long has Carol been working with you?
Oh, my God. Probably like 15 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, she's my assistant, but she's really like my sister from another mother,
I saw the shout out in the book. That's
yeah.
why. That was amazing. And your husband got a beautiful shout out in the book. You said, got it right now.
Yes, finally got it right. He was like, I said, honey, why couldn't we have met years ago? He said, no, you wouldn't have wanted me years
that's
ago.
A fact.
You
Timing
got me
is
at
everything.
the right time. Yes.
You might have met him before that. He wasn't the person.
No, he
Sometimes
was not.
people have to go through what they need to go through before they land in the right space.
Exactly, and stop looking at, exterior stuff and looking what's coming, from the heart. It's so... And it's interesting, though, because each time, from the book, I've been married 4 times. But, each time I got married, I thought I was going to be married forever in that relationship. Right. And you get to a point which was different with my mom than it was with me. Because with me, each marriage, when I saw it going left and I was being emotionally abused, I was like, okay, it's time to step away. My mother didn't get afforded that opportunity for a very long time.
Right. I know. Sometimes we feel like we have to stay and work through it, and marriage, because we do. I think anytime somebody gets married, no one thinks it's not going to last. You obviously think it's forever. I've heard all these conversations lately about prenups, and people are like, well, if I do that, I feel like I'm setting myself up for failure. But a marriage is still it's a business arrangement. And sometimes with businesses, we don't start businesses thinking they're going to fail either.
Right.
So people always have to set themselves up for that. But I'm happy for you.
I'm happy for me, too.
I mean, working, doing #1 shows. I mean, the #1 movie, and then the #1 series.
We had 8.7 million views. It's so exciting. I'm working with such a great, talented cast. And you know what was also interesting, I've been asked what was it like to work with Tyler, and especially doing Beauty and Black. Tyler had such a way of unifying the cast in such a special way, which I felt had a real bearing on the chemistry and authenticity as our characters engaged with each other. But when he invited us to his home for a meet and greet, when we got to his home toward the end of the evening, he said, I'm going to take you guys upstairs to the top floor. I want to show you something. So there's this wide, long, winding staircase going around and up, around. It looked like it was going up to the heavens. And we have some young cast members, and they were running up the stairs behind Tyler and laughing. And by the time I think I'm in pretty good shape, but by the time I got to the second landing, I said, Tyler, where is the elevator? So we get up to the top floor, and we're walking down this long, massive hallway. here in New York, it would be like walking from 5th to 6th Avenue. And we get to these double doors, and Tyler opens the doors, and there is this chapel with about 10 pews, this beautiful altar with flowers all around the room. We sat, and it was like this hushed silence. It just felt like so sacred. And then Tyler began to say this beautiful, loving prayer for not just for the success of the show, but for the success and happiness of each one of us that were coming together for this journey. And it's like nothing I've ever experienced before. And we shot this show in a month, so we weren't together for that long.
Right.
But sitting in that chapel that evening, it was like not a dry eye in the chapel. And it created this almost instant family dynamic for us.
Oh, that's amazing. And imagine having a chapel in your house too, by the way.
I've never seen anything like that before. And it was just, that was such a special evening that first night we all met.
I've only heard positive things about people who've worked with Tyler Perry, as far as how much they've gotten paid, how he treats not just his cast, but also people who work on the set, and how nobody is disrespectful to anybody, just kind of setting the tone right.
Let me tell you something. I said nobody better ever talk about Tyler to me. Because when my manager called me, and usually when you're talking back and forth to working on a project with producers, and your manager, your representation go back and forth about salary. And so my manager called me and he said, Debbi, he said, Tyler's just offered you this part on this new drama he's doing for Amazon. And he said, there's no negotiating. I said, huh? There's no negotiating? What do you mean? He said, well, this is the offer. I said, what? I said, can you say that again? So I said, of course there will be no negotiating. And so we do the movie. And after the movie, he calls me and he said, Debbi, he said, I asked my people to pay you X amount of dollars. Did they do that? And I said, yes, Tyler, and I am so grateful. And he said, you were so wonderful in this movie. I'm going to offer you this on top of it. I swear to God, I almost fainted.
No one does that. I'm going to give you a little more.
Look, I've been doing this for almost 4 decades, and I have never had anybody.
Wild.
It was incredible. I said, I want to work for Tyler for the rest of my career.
And that's how you deserve to be treated, honestly.
Yeah.
I know for him, just even having you in his movies, just as it's a gift for you to work with him, it is a gift for him to work with you also. Just the respect that you get, it's an honor for you to be here.
Thank you. It's been an honor to be here.
Well, listen, when is part 2 coming out?
I know it's not coming out until next spring. I don't think Netflix has given a date.
We don't have time to wait for that.
I know. That's what everybody is saying. But that's good because, people will be waiting to see what's going to happen.
All right. Do we know, can we get some... Me and you were going to talk after. I'm going to get some spoilers because I know you know what's going on in part 2. Okay. All right. Perfect. Because I know you're a professional, and so you can't give away too much. But
I want to keep my job.
But if it leaks somewhere else, that's not really your fault. But I cannot wait to see what else you're going to come with, because I already know this first part, I could tell that there is bubbling. Mm-hmm. I could tell it's bubbling. You're not that nice lady that you appear to be. So I'm looking forward to see.
She has her moments still.
Yeah. I cannot wait to see you go in there and get it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Debbi Morgan, a true legend, is here. You know who else is joining us in a minute? Lynn Whitfield.
I know. I just heard that. I haven't seen Lynn in decades.
Okay. Well, I love this for us. All right. Well, it's way up.